Hey everybody, Tim here, and we are doing another rhythm lesson today. And this is actually part of the live streams that take place on Friday or Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free to stop by and see, what kind of things we're talking about at those times. You're always welcome. You're always welcome to come back or leave me any questions, of course. But today, we're talking about the metronome. So basically, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be writing a few examples, and we're just going to play them along with the metronome, and I'll give you some additional hints and tips on how to play with the metronome more effectively. So here we go. Okay, so I have these 4 notes. Let's make it more interesting, shall we? Okay, so the first question is, do I have the correct number of beats? Well, yeah, I do, right? I have 1, 2, and 3, 4. So if you've seen my other rhythm lessons, you know exactly where we're at on this. Let me see. There's the metronome. Let me bring the metronome and the example on screen at the same time. Here we go. So let me shrink it down so we can see it. So what I'll do is I'll kind of pick a tempo to go at. 167 is a little fast, but we'll try it at that tempo. We'll see how we do. So each of these is a quarter note now. There's 4 beats, just like we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first thing you want to do is really feel the beat before you even start playing. And what you may want to do is just see if you can play quarter notes along with the beat. Really try to listen to that along with your own playing at the same time. It is a little tricky since what you're playing will often overpower what you're doing. Next, we're going to try just playing straight 8th notes with the metronome. Maybe a little bit fast for 8th notes. I mean, it would be easy if I could play them. So, as you can see, if you get into Allegro, that's very fast. So let's change it a little bit. Let me stop it. And then hopefully, there we go. We'll move it down. So what did I do? Well, I moved the number down, right? And then it changed actually what the word was, andante. Andante means moving along or walking along. And that's a little bit more of a moderate pace. So what this number really signifies, if you've seen the other metronome videos, is this is how many beats there are in a minute. So if I had 60, that would be exactly 1 beat for every second. But with 84, it's a little bit faster, but not nearly as fast. And this, especially for beginners, might be where you want to start. So let's see if we can just play 8th notes. There you go, a bit easier. And once you get a feel for that, you kind of know how the beats are, where the beats fall, and how they're broken up into 2 halves. So let me show you how we're going to play this example now. So remember that we have beat 1 and then 2 and for the 8th notes, and then 3 and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Once again. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Play along. Ready? 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, and 3, 4. So that's how we'll play that measure, a very simple measure. But of course, we're still getting used to playing with the metronome. So we're going to do a couple more easy ones and see how we do. And then we'll do something a little bit tougher. Rich and Manny are finally here. I was wondering when everybody was going to show up. All right, so we are, if anybody's just tuning in, as you can probably tell, we are working with the metronome today. And we are I'm just giving you some extra tips on how to play with the metronome. We talked about it about a week ago or so. And today, I'm just going to give you a little bit more advice. So let's do another another rhythm. So we already know how to count this one. I'm not even going to ask you about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out some of my earlier, I have a whole playlist on rhythm lessons if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't heard me talk about it already. But we are going to do this simple rhythm with the metronome. So I'm going to put it over here. I think 82 is a good number. Remember, that's the number of beats in a minute. So 82 in the word andante is kind of a medium kind of speed. So let's get everything in frame here. And I'm just going to start it. Now, think about this for a second. There's 4 clicks, right? So that dotted half note is going to take up 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So I got the easy part out of the way. I mean, the next part is also easy. But we have to keep in mind that once we hit that final beat, that's going to be 4 and. And by the way, you always want to make sure that you listen to a couple of measures first before you start. And you also want to start on beat 1. So that lower pitch 1 is beat 1. 1. 1. So always be aware of where beat 1 is. So I'm going to play it now. I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Pretty easy, right? Let's try it together. Let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's come up with a system. 1, 2, 3, go. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to say go on the last beat, and then we're going to come in. So we have the same kind of system working together. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Pretty simple. So we're going to move back. Now we're going to do something a tad more complicated. We're going to do a dotted quarter note. How many beats does a dotted quarter note get? Well, you can feel free to answer. I'll try to give you enough time to answer. Maybe I will end up answering before you're finished. But let's do the beats from the back to the front so I give people time to answer. So you have beat 4, right? Beat 3. Now we need 2 more beats left. So I'm going to see. So a dotted quarter note gets 1.5 beats. So the question was, remember when we did dotted quarter notes before? It's been a while, about a month or so since we talked about these. Remember that when you're counting as 1 and 2 ands and things like that, you're splitting the beat into 2 halves, and each the number and the and then represents half of a beat. So you always have to ask yourself, how many halves in 1.5? Well, it's 3 halves, and then and is right there. So if I was just counting this, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, just like that. But let's put it with the metronome and see if we can play this together. Here we go. So still at 82. Remember, we're trying to focus on where beat 1 is. So we're going to come in with beat 1, 1, 2, 3, play. And that was it. I didn't want you to play the rest of it yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to think about this, right? Think about which of these clicks the dotted quarter note is going to be holding, right? It's going to hold that over 1 and 2, right? And then we're going to move after the second click. So basically we're going to move here. So that's where that 8th note come in. So it's kind of strange. I mean, it's easy to understand, how many beats a dotted quarter note gets, but to put it in time with a metronome can be a different story, because you really have to think, okay, this is taking up the entire first click. It's taking up half of the second one. Like as soon as the second one's done, then you move, because that's when the second half. This metronome doesn't count half of beats, it only counts beats. So you always have to be counting, the half beats in your head. So you maybe want to do what's called subdividing, right? Which is just breaking the beats into smaller parts in your head. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's how we would play our beat, using the subdivisions. And you should learn to do it in your head eventually, but out loud is great, especially at first, to make sure you got it. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, play. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So I did it 3 times. Maybe I'll do each one 3 times right in a row rather than stopping. So Hopefully everybody is good so far. Yes, I would imagine so. All right, great. All right, everybody. So we are going to I'm going to take a short, not break, but I'm going to take questions really quick. So if you have any questions, maybe I'll do one more example. While I'm doing this example, let me know. Or if there's anything you want to cover with the metronome, related to the metronome and how it applies to anything. And then maybe we'll play a song, or I'll try. Maybe I'll find an easier one to play with the metronome. So here we go. You know what I'm going to do? Let's try this as like an exercise. Rather than just playing straight notes on it, it's easy enough to just play the rhythms on it, which is good to do at first with the metronome. But after a while, you want to become more aware that a lot of times, obviously, we're going to have different notes going on and different rhythms. But for now, we're going to do one rhythm, but different notes. Oops. There we go. So this should look familiar. Right? Not too hard. Remember that the fingering for the C major scale is 1, 2, 3. And cross under to hit 1 right there. And then you have 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And I'll answer Rich's question as soon as I'm done with this little example. Good question, Rich. Okay, so we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in terms of the beats. Really easy to understand. Not even going to go over that. Since this far along, I don't know, what is this, like rhythm lesson 15? We should generally know how to count eighth notes. All right, so here we go. So what was my first tip of advice? Start right away on beat 2? No, it wasn't that. Start on beat 3? No. How about not waiting enough measures to really feel the beat? None of those things are the correct one. So the very first thing you want to do is feel out the beat. Maybe move your hand up and down or play the note along with the beat. Really start to feel that beat. Be conscious of where beat 1 is. Where beat 1 is. One more time. 1 right there. I know as I'm talking, I'm getting out of beats. So don't talk while you use the metronome. That helps. And now you want to kind of think about eighth notes, right? Just on one beat or one note. So here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, play. So hopefully you did pretty well. Next we're going to play the C major scale in time with the metronome. That wasn't fair. I should have let you have time to come in. So here we go. I'm going to give you 3 beats, and then we're going to go play. 1, 2, 3, play. So that was 3 times, front to back, just to kind of see that you get the idea that not only will you have to focus on, still the rhythms, but you also have to focus on different pitches as well. So I'll try to find a simple example I can do without killing myself on the metronome. I won't do anything like Bach invention. Bach invention would be okay. Bach fugue or anything would be a little too hard to play with the metronome right off the bat. And I haven't played one of those in a while, so I'd have to kind of practice that. But I'll try to find something that we can work out. Okay, let's see. All right, now I'm going to answer some questions. So we have Rich says, should you count in your head, let me move this, the entire time or just until you find the rhythm? You should count your head the entire time if possible. Now here's the thing, whenever I'm playing for somebody new or if I'm like a little bit nervous, sometimes I forget to count. And that could be a problem. But yeah, you should try to count in your head at all times. It seems a little daunting, but yeah. I mean, especially even if the rhythm is easy, because then you kind of get into like a good habit of counting in your head. But you certainly should count. I mean, if you're just starting out and that's too much for you, you should definitely start out feeling the beat like we talked about, and then starting, and especially with the metronome, I mean, that keeps the beat for you. But yeah, you should generally be conscious of where the 1 and 2 ands are. even when the metronome's going. But that does take a little bit of training. So if you're just getting started out with that, maybe just start out like, thinking about the beats more often. Like say you have a whole note, right? A whole note's really easy to play. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, maybe instead of just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, when you hit the whole note, you can kind of train yourself to start counting 1, even like in your head. Like that. Of course, you don't have to mouth it like I did. I was just kind of showing you. Or you can even count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that way, if you have eighth notes right after that, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you'll nail that rhythm. Like if it's going off whole notes into eighth notes, the things students struggle the most with rhythm wise is when you have one rhythm, like say a whole note, and you go into a much faster rhythm, like an eighth note. So a lot of students will either go too fast with the eighth notes, either play them as quarter notes or play them as 16th notes, or something in between. What is it called when one line is over 4 notes? Do you mean like this, Manny? Oops. Not like that. I didn't think that was going to work. There we go. Like that, like when you have an eighth note over 4 notes. Because that can happen, even though really the beamings really help you keep track of what's in one note. So a lot of times that's why you'll see eighth notes beamed in 2s, is because that's supposed to each represent one beat. But sometimes they do beam them in 4s. I don't know. That's it. Yeah. So they're still eighth notes. It's just that they write them, it's probably more convenient for them to write them all in a line rather than split them up. One second. Okay, so back to it. So yeah, that's how you play the C major scale. How about, let's see here. No, not that. All right, just give me a second. I want to pick out a song, like a simple-ish song to play for you with the metronome so we can kind of get the idea. Oh, look, there's a folder that says easy on it in big letters. Let's do that. Let's do that one. All right, we have hot cross buns. This one's a really difficult one. It might take you 100 years to master. I'm just kidding. This one's great, a beginner metronome piece. If I can get the metronome out here, that would be perfect. It's like Office Space. That would be great. Here we go. All right. Does anybody watch Office Space, by the way? If you do, or if you've watched it, let me know, or leave it in the comments if you're watching this video, because that's totally relevant to what we're talking about. Anyway, so we're going to play with the metronome, obviously. So one of the first things is that when you're playing a song, are you set to the correct time signature? And if you look at the time signature here, look at that. That's a C, right? That's not a 4. So what does the C mean? Well, C stands for common time, and the most common time signature is 4/4. So that works out perfect. We're already in the right one. So what was the first piece of advice I gave you? It was feel out the rhythm. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's the thing. Like if you're a beginner, you can, or if you're advanced, you can play this no problem. Probably sight read it. But if you're a beginner, you probably want to play the song a few times first, just so you have a general idea on what the notes are, because the metronome just adds another level of things to think about. So you only do the metronome after you've been working on a piece for a couple of weeks, or maybe a couple of days to a couple of weeks, maybe, depending on how hard it is. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I got off there. How did I get off? I'm going to start on line 3 again. So there you go. I felt out the beat before I started. And then by using the metronome, I discovered that that third line, I was missing a beat there. That's what happened. I forgot to play an extra C. So I went back with the metronome and I made sure that the first beat, that's one thing also you want to make sure, is the first beat of each measure hits on that beat 1. Because if it starts hitting on beat 2, then you missed a beat somewhere. And then you should probably go back and check it. That's another great thing the metronome's for, is picking out trouble spots like we talked about. So like if you play a spot with the metronome and you notice something's off about it, because the metronome will help you with that, you want to go back, maybe a few measures and try to figure out where that took place. So that was Hot Cross Buns. I know that was a performance of a lifetime. Okay, so we are going to play another one. Rich says, how do I jump my hands around like that? That took a long time. See, even sometimes it's difficult for me sometimes to do like octaves. Pretty good though. I mean, that's difficult. A lot of time and a lot of coordination. That is just something that comes with time. I mean, you could practice that, like playing an octave, and then like, okay, move my hand up an octave here, hit them here, down there. Obviously, like when you first do it, it may be like, oops, like it was for me, or where I'd hit like the wrong one. So even playing it just for a second, I'm already better. But that's because I practiced it so many times before. Can it be done without looking down? I don't know. I bet you it can, because when I do play songs and I'm like thinking, if I have it memorized, sometimes I'll look up, not down. Let's see. The octave's a big jump for not looking down. Let's see. Ooh, I did it. Oh, but I had to look back down. See, that's one of the things. Oh, I have to like kind of feel to do it. Now, if I was jumping octaves, this is the one area, probably even as you get advanced, you will glance down. I just glance down like every quick, it just really helps. Or I can have my head up some of the time to see the notes, like on the page or whatever. So the answer is like a mix. I can kind of do it without it, but it's a little bit slower. If I glance down real quick, I can nail it first try. Okay, so back to the metronome. We're going to play another song, maybe one slightly more difficult, but like I said, I don't want to be playing anything crazy, because I want to be able to teach the lesson, you know what I mean? And I can do it a lot better. Oops. Here we go. This one's a little bit harder, but it's a good one. I like this one. This is actually part of one of my courses in the Lessons on the Web Academy, in case you're wondering. Okay, I moved the number. Whoops. Okay, good enough. I do have it backwards. Well, let me try that. There we go. All right, so what am I going to do? Well, it says moderato, right? So one of the things is this you can think of this word. I don't know if this is a great analogy because I just thought it up. You can think of the word moderato like, it always tells you how fast to go in the beginning, by the way. That's usually where they put it. Or if they want you to change halfway through, they'll put it there as well. You want to like work your way up to that number. Like, that's not the minimum number. It's like the speed limit, right? So you can go slower than the speed limit. If you go too slow, people may scream at you. But you don't want to like start at that speed, because that'll be too fast. So let's see where moderato is. Here we go. Around 112, right? Oh, what do I have to change about this one? There's something different about this song, this minuet in G. What is different? What do I have to change even before I start? If I don't change it, everything will be messed up. So I'm going to wait for the answer on this one, because this is pretty important. If you know the answer and you're watching this in the video, leave it in the comments below. So remember, the question is, what is the time? What is different about this song? I almost told you. I do that a lot. Not a lot, but like it does happen probably once a week at least. Time signature, yeah, very good, Manny. So hopefully you saw that before I gave the answer away. Time signature is different, so I have to change that. That's why I wanted to make a big deal about that. If you don't do that, the whole thing will be off, and you'll be like, why is this? Why am I not hitting things on beat 1? Why does it make no sense? So remember that if I was learning this song for real, and say I wasn't really good at sight reading, and I was beginning, maybe this is like a beginner intermediate piece. This is actually a little bit easier of a version than the one I have as part of the Academy, since that's a little bit further along. This is like the easy version. So this would be like early intermediate. But say I wasn't there yet, or say I was just getting into that level, and I needed to read through the notes like a lot. Well, I wouldn't play with the metronome, right? Remember that from before. You want to play it through a couple times. Even though I'm a good sight reader, and even though I actually have played this song a few times before, I'm actually going to read through it once without the metronome, just to see if there's any note mistakes, that I really need to correct first, because it's hard to correct those and do the metronome at the exact same time. Now it says poco ritardo at the end, retardando at the end, which means to slow down. But when you're playing the metronome, don't do those things, because it will be very difficult to play along with the metronome and do that at the same time. So that's something you'll add in after you've been playing with the metronome a bit, because then you can add your own expression into it, which the metronome is a robot. It does not care for expression. It's just, on the beat. So I've played it. I kind of have a general idea where the hard parts might be, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to start it up. What's the first thing I want to do, right? This is, by the way, the maximum speed you should go, like I said. Should I start right away without thinking? No, obviously. You need to feel the beat, right? And you can do that you can move back and forth. You can bob your head, or, move your hand up and down. Play the note maybe on the beat. Then maybe play the eighth notes, right? What beat should I really be listening for? Well, all three of them, but beat 1 especially. So here we go. Not bad. One area that probably will get you, because it got me when I was first doing it, it gets me sometimes too, are half notes. A lot of times people, without thinking, will play a quarter note where the half note is, like that second line there, and then move on, and then they'll wonder why they're not on beat 1. Like I said, if you notice all of a sudden you're not on beat 1, that means you made a rhythm mistake earlier on, so you want to go back and review that mistake. And by the way, there are a ton more rhythm lessons and practice kind of things on my website as part of my lessons on the Web Academy. So, when this video is finished, head over there and check it out, see what it's all about. But many of you know about it already. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to answer a question. Manny says, can you have different time signatures on treble and different on bass clef? What do you think? Not really. I know you can have triplets against eighth notes, but I don't think so. I don't think I've ever seen that. That would be very hard for that to work. Like I said, triplets though against half notes are literally 3 versus 2, right? Since you're splitting the beat into 3 beats and then splitting it into 2. So that would be kind of like having 3/4 and 4/4. Not really, actually, because 3/4 would 4/4 at the same time would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Where one of them would just play an extra beat. So whereas a triplet, an eighth note, they hit, the first ones hit together, and then the second triplet note hits, and then the second eighth note hits, and then the last triplet hits. So it takes a lot of coordination. I still sometimes don't have it quite right, but I asked my teacher, who by the way is like a super awesome piano player, has played in tons of different countries and fairly well known. Dr. Craig, if you want to know, although I did show you something about him before. Yeah, I asked him one time, I was like, how do you play triplets against half or eighth notes? How does that work? And he goes, oh, you just kind of have to get the feel for it. And I was like, what? Like, because he always had such a great explanation for everything. But he was right, because I just kept playing them, and I just kind of like really kept going after it. It's a very big coordination thing to do that. But yeah, the answer is no, Manny. I don't think they have different time signatures, not that I've ever seen, for right hand or left hand. It would be the most confusing thing ever, without a doubt. So does anybody else have any questions about using the metronome? I think maybe I'll do one more song, right? And then I think you get the idea for what we're going for today. That the main points for today is you already know what the metronome does. It keeps the beat. That number tells you how many beats in a minute, not a measure, but in a minute. And then there's a word associated with each number range. That's what we talked about in the first lesson. This lesson, we talked about really how to prepare yourself when you start the metronome to start playing. How to feel the beat, play the quarter notes with it, play the eighth notes. Make sure your time signature is set correctly. And when you start playing a song, you want to learn the song's notes first and then practice with the metronome. The notes don't have to be absolutely perfect, but the better those are, the better off you will be, for sure. Okay, let's see what else we got. Sonatina by Clementi. I don't think I've played this Sonatina before, but we'll check it out. So it says Allegro. Well, right, we'd have to move the number up because Allegro means fast. And remember, that's the speed you would work up to. So probably what I would do first is play it maybe at andante, or if you're really beginning, really starting out with the song, do it slower. So you go slower first, and then bump your way up until you get to that goal that they want. So here we go. We're back on 4/4, by the way. Got to change that. Oh, I haven't played this. Yeah, okay. Oh, and it continues, but because we're doing the metronome and I'd have to flip pages, I'm just going to do the first page. So I'm going to do it on Dante. I have the correct amount of beats per measure. I'm just going to feel the beat first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, ready, play. Make sure to hold those whole notes for the whole time. So I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to move the number up, not down, up to Allegro. So this is what you would work up to. Bump, ba-da, bump, 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 ba-da, bump, ba-da, ba-da. All right, here I'm going to go. I'm going to actually play it. I did the fast tempo, but that was really, jumping the gun, because what you would do is I'd play it on Dante where we had it. I'd bump it up maybe 5 points, 10 points. 10 points if you can handle it. Try at 10 points if you higher a few times. So you gradually want to get up to that number. Chances are you won't just be able to fly right into it or play it once slow and then fly right into it. You're going to have to play it slower and then adjust until you get to the tempo. And that'll make your playing a lot better. A lot of people shy away from the metronome, but I've seen, even in myself, but even my students, amazing results from the metronome. So definitely, work with it even more than you're doing so, especially if it's none at all. Triplets versus sixteenths would also be very hard, Rich. I'm not going to do it now. I'd have to really practice that. I used to have that down because that was during one of the... No, that was the, again, the Nocturne by Chopin. I should get some concert pieces ready, but the problem is that I'm making all these videos, and we talked about this before, and I play songs. Although I've been playing things a little bit more difficult because I do have a few students who are pretty high level, so I really have to play their pieces first, but I don't master them like I should be. So I'm not concert ready like I used to be, but I do play a lot, and I play a lot of different things. And what does that make me really good at? It's actually made me a lot better at this over the last few years, a couple of years rather, is sight reading. So because I read a lot of different stuff all the time, and I don't pick one or two things to do for a concert, my sight reading skills are really good. So if you want to get good at sight reading, that's what you do. You read a little bit of everything every day. If you want to get concert level and get your pieces ready, you should concentrate on 2 or 3 things, maybe just one thing, but depends on what you got going on. If you're in music school, you got to do 7 things, and it is ridiculous, but it is totally worth it. Okay, legatos and staccatos at the same time, Rich says. So actually, one thing I want to do is conclude the rhythm part of the lesson first. So once I chop this up into the video, this will be really the end of it. That way I can answer questions for everybody else. But this has been a rhythm lesson. And go back a few minutes ago to get the whole rundown of what we talked about, because I kind of reviewed it before we were done. But we were basically learning to play with the metronome. I was giving you some additional tips on how to do that, playing along with songs and everything. And preparing yourself to start on the right beat and set the metronome correctly. And we talked about what the numbers mean and everything else. If you don't know that, check back. I made another metronome video a few days ago, and check back on the channel for that. What else? Oh, if you really liked this lesson, feel free to share it with a friend. Like the video if you are watching this video, or you are in the stream right now. Feel free to do that. And if you want more, if you're really looking and thirsty for more stuff, head over to lessonsontheweb.com, where I have a lot of cool services, like my Lessons on the Web Academy, full of really in-depth courses for you. So this has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. I'm going to stick around for these live streaming folks, but if you're watching it on this video, thanks as always, and I'll see you for the next lesson. Thank you. All right, now on to questions. All right, staccatos and legatos at the same time.